All right, this time we're going to look into a site that was sent to me. Why do you people want Egyptians to be white? Is the questions that's asked. There was that forum one I did just recently where this girl, Francois Marie, had asked a question out into a forum and got a lot of flack off of it. And I think that's where I found a Super Egyptians response that I actually put in the video, or it was attached to it in some way. And that's what led me to that. Well, this got sent to me. Apparently, I didn't sign up for anything, but this got sent to me. So I was like, what? So I thought I would take a look at it, and I thought it was a response to me, is what I thought it was. Why do you people want Egyptians to be white? So I thought it was a direct response. But it seems to be an open question. And so I hope there's not lines on that. Let me see if I can get rid of that at all for you here. That should be a little better. Okay, so her question acts straight. Eurocentrics, not people, want Egyptians to be white so they can associate themselves in Europe with the greatness of ancient Egypt. I would say that West African people that didn't know Egypt existed would like to associate themselves with the greatness of ancient Egypt that really wasn't a Negroid society. But Egyptians and other North Africans are whites only when and if it's historically convenient. Someone said that the whiteness of Egyptians and other North Africans is the biggest joke of the universe, and he was right. I don't know who that someone was, but he is a big joke. And we always know, and we have since primordial times, and then know now from genetics and all types of sciences pulled together with archaeology and a myriad of things, that all of North Africa and East Africa there up through the Horn was always Caucasians in primordial times, all the way through the Middle East, all the way out to over India, all the way up into China, all the way across and in through Europe. Those were all what you call white people, even though they get quite tan. I think some of the cognition problem is they try to compare everybody to a Nordic that hasn't been out in the sun. Ironically, Nordics get a tan. Look at the Swedish bikini team. Anyhow, Egyptians, modern and ancient, are not white people. Really? Well, what are they? In Europe, now, by the way, I just want to interject that in the last video, if you'll notice, that she said, yeah, they weren't Negroids, but they weren't white. That was her point of view just about 3 weeks before this. That's it, 3 weeks. Okay, so God knows what she went through in those 3 weeks leading into Christmas here, because this was December 12th of last year. But she said they weren't, but that the others weren't white people. And then somebody jumped on, they go, well, how do you get those pale women and all? And it just keeps going from there. And then DNA and genetics and redheads and blue-eyed statues and all this other stuff. And it really becomes a moot point. But somehow she comes out of that with this attitude, and here we go. So Egyptians, modern and ancient, are not white people. In Europe, Egyptians, like other North Africans, are regarded as an alien group of people with equally alien cultural practices. Should have proofread. Like the facial tattoos of the Berbers and the FGM of the Egyptians, inherited from Nilotic ancestors. I don't know what FGM. I'm not even sure what that actually is. It's escaping me at this point. But the Egyptians had tattoos on them too. They found quite a few of them and so on. And they found tattoos go all the way through, all these Proto-Indo-Europeans and stuff, and led all up. And it actually looks like that's how it got into different people, like maybe even the Samoans and those type of people. How it got into different groups was through this type of thing. I mean, it could have been a convergence where they picked it up on their own, but now looking at the barriers and where people bounced to and things at the time, it looks like there was at least seeing of each other, and then maybe it was just direct sharing. There's a lot of that going on where people don't think that it really was, but bringing cattle and things like that, all kinds of stuff. So equally though, Yes, many Egyptians have partially Eurasian ancestry. Well, they do, and they have current ones have very small Negroid admixture, and genetics shows that it's much less earlier, uh, particularly in coastal regions and urban areas. In addition, many Egyptians are the descendants and settlers of Turkish, Roman, and Persian or Greek origin. Well, sure, there's some of that that's in there, but no, there's a whole lot more Islamic and Arabic in there, and that's what you can see is actually tainted, and especially like the Copts. The Copts were about as pure as Egyptian left that there is, and there seems to be still some admix in there, and there is some Negroid in those too, but all that comes much later. Yeah, Bantu expansions first, and then of course slavery and stuff comes much later and stuff, and down about the Roman times, you start to see a slight mix come in as the Islamic slave trade begins, which most people don't know happened 900 years before the Americas were even found. Yeah, and they went through, oh man, like 14 times this amount of black people, and then some 12 million black people, a high number projected, may have been taken to the Americas, where 96% of them, I'm sorry, 92% of them were taken to South America, 6% to North America. And but at the same time, let's just continue. Yes, many Egyptians have partial Eurasian ancestry, partial and Cochin regions. There are Eurasian transplants in Egypt who later adopted the language and customs of the land. There's also a well-guarded taboo of white slavery in Egypt, not to mention in the number of crusaders who deserted, converted to Islam, and married Egyptian women. Yeah, finally, Caucasians were not going to enslave each other, and the Bible had that whole thing where they can enslave others, but they couldn't enslave themselves and their own people. That was not right. Of course, its original concept was to take somebody under your wing for 7 years. They would work for you, and they would build up money, and then you would set them off, and a lot of times you would give them property and so on. This even happened in America for quite some time, blacks, whites, and Irish and so on, until a black man named Anthony Johnson went to court and demanded lifetime slavery for blacks so he could keep one that he really wanted, and they agreed with him, and then that started that by their own hands. And that's kind of a terrible thing they don't ever want to bring up and show. But at that time, too, the largest slave owner in North Carolina and landowner was a black person. But that's another issue together. We're talking about Egyptians. And the West Africans that we're talking about in the Americas didn't even know they existed, and they don't have any genetic connections to anybody. The only Negroids in the area were Nubians. They're not connected at all. Dividing Africans along color lines, facial features, and levels of Eurasian admixture is a very old Eurocentric trick used for the sake of invasion and domination. There's a white Africa, North Africa, and a black Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah, that's right. All of North Africa was Caucasians, and all of Sub-Saharan Black Africa, there you go. Okay, so there are Caucasian Africans and North Africans and Horners. Okay, so all of North Africa and the East Africa through the Horn versus Congoid Africans and the Sub-Saharans, particularly the Bantu speakers. Okay, so then where's your problem? In reality, North Africa, including Egypt, is saturated with black genes from its earliest inhabitants, who were migrants from the Horn of Africa. That would be the Caucasians you just talked about, just a sentence before. The E1B1HG is the dominant genetic marker extending along the northern coast from Morocco to Egypt. It points out its origin as the Horn of Africa, firmly located in Africa south of the Sahara. And yeah, that's early Caucasoids that are all through there. And that's where that points to. And the admix is into Negroids, not into white. It's the other way around. Everything is the other way around. It's funny how blacks want to try to flip everything. Like they were first, when they're last. The oldest Negroid skull found of a proto-Negroid, not even the modern ones, is 9100 BC. Now they may find older ones, but they've tried real hard, and that's it. That's pushing it. The oldest modern is about 4600 BC. That's it. Yeah, there's a video about it, but let's continue. Horn of Africa, firmly located in south of the Sahara. In Europe, the presence of E1B1B HG is considered African admixture, Caucasian admixture. It's not Negroid. Nothing white about it. Caucasian. You keep mixing the terms up and trying to, ooh, you're trying to pit white people against themselves with whether or not they have tans, for God's sakes. Haha. It is the R1B HG and the all-related HG which are considered the genetic markers of white ancestry. No, we have a lot of genetic markers. There's only a few for black people, and those aren't it. Egypt is a Mediterranean country, however, it is only the northern coastal regions of Egypt that belong to the Mediterranean world. Southern and eastern Egyptians can be very dark-skinned. Yes, so can any Caucasian you look at, given enough time in the sun. Hey, unless they're leucoderm, unless they're like a redhead and stuff, then they just freckle like hell. Given enough time, believe me, I had a friend named Daniel as a friend as a kid. Given enough time, those freckles blend all in, and he actually gets just as dark as anybody, except for his underarms, which turn into speckles into a lightness. And whenever he pulls off his shorts, white ass. Egypt is a Mediterranean country. However, it's the only coastal regions of Egypt belong to the Mediterranean world. Well, all of North Africa. And that doesn't count the Sahara. But when the Sahara was still active, that was too. Green Sahara Project proves that. Hell, there's Hofmeier's site down in the Cape that shows Caucasians at 40,000 BC. We just talked about the oldest proto-Negroid. So what was running into what back then? And what did get with what to make the admixture that it ends up becoming other people? Yeah. And the people that are in that Cape area aren't related to West African Negroids really either. They're Khoisan and they're quite different. But that's another video. The Siwi people, the Egyptian Amazigh community, can also be dark-skinned. Well, there's some admix in there, but that doesn't mean, pardon me, there's some admix in there, but that doesn't mean that that's what they were. See, you see some admix and you go, they were all black, and you're like, well, they're all white with some black admix. I mean, it's pathetic. Some members of the Nubian minority can only be described as black people. Yeah, but then there's also the northern Nubians that are there, and then you can tell that they're mainly Caucasoid, may have a little bit of admix, and there are a whole lot of Arabic people. And there's this whole thing with it too and everything, but let's not get into there. Are Egyptians considered white or black? They're considered Caucasians. Caucasians. They had some red and blonde hair and blue eyes, and in them too, which the current population doesn't have. And the markers that carry that are up into Eurasia, right? Asia Minor and into Europe. They're not anywhere going the other way. Oh, I saw a black person that, yeah, whatever. That's not reality. Why do white people want to be tanned? Well, we like to get in the sun. We used to be sun worshippers, the original sun worshippers. In fact, the Nile itself used to be named for the sun. Its original name was Or, so or R, A-R, or A-U-R, R, and that signifies the sun. But the people that lived around that thing, the Nile is really an Egyptian or a Greek word, just like Egypt is a Greek word. The original people that lived there didn't really call themselves Kemet like everybody thinks too. They referred to that as the farming communities. But the original name for that river that they lived on, so what they were called by the river that sustained them was the R River. And that pertains with and other things because they do come from Sumerians, and it's been all but totally proven now. Of course, they, pyramids, ziggurats, cuneiform writing, it gets pretty simple, but R, and if you took in, what would you name people that were from the river R? What would you call them? Would you call them Aryans? They have a pyramid of El Aryan. It's kind of covered up now, but a lot of stuff's covered up now, and people wonder why, and black people are like, oh, it's because they were black. No, just from what we look at, you can easily tell. Just from what genetics says, we can easily tell. Just from history, and even just what the Egyptians say about black people. They're not even allowed into Egypt by a decree. Do white people subconsciously support white supremacy? Boy, there's a question open-end. Amazing, these questions from her, isn't it? No, I don't think that we do. I think there's a problem with recently domesticated or westernized African people that were primitives having a problem with trying to collect in with these other people that made airplanes and the TV, the computers you're looking at, cars, everything you're looking at. They can fly now, went to the moon, and their people have not been able to catch up because they're still in that state and trying to catch up. And in that jealousy, I think we cause a lot of problem. And then they come out and they name something like white supremacy, which is supposed to be a bad term, but they themselves in that term are really just pointing out that whites seem to be superior here. I mean, look at what's going on. Look what's happened. Just look at really, really known history, and it seems to be that. So then they try to grab at something that might be the edge of unknown, and it's in the edge of Africa. Do Jews identify as white? No. Well, yes, they identify as Caucasians. You keep trying to put this white like the paper, and I ain't like the paper. I ain't like the paper. I'm like the guy on the damn walls. Why? They don't identify as white. They identify as Caucasians. All Caucasians identify as Caucasians. You call them white people, as black people, whatever you want to call it. You can't call black people brown because there's too many brown people. So, but let's just throw a fit. Well, anyhow, the Jews, the Hebrews, the 12 tribes, not just the Jews, considered themselves all to be one set of people that were somewhat different than the other Caucasians that were even around on the fringes of it. And they only talk about that area in the Bible and stuff. And there's no book of Sudan, and they don't really mention black people in the Bible at all. When they have terms in there and stuff, it's easily shown. They try to throw it out there, but you can easily just read it real quick and you're like, no, okay. And then all the other terms where they talk about being pale and wanting to be pale, a lady who begs forgiveness for just being tan because her brothers made her work in a field, and they try to use that. Do some people want to be black? I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of kids want to be cool, but I don't know if they want to be black. Do a lot of black people want to be white? I don't know. Why do they wear contacts that are different color and Caucasian mimicking hair hats? And why don't they try to act like the people in Africa do? Why are they trying to act like the people in America do? But then, and then they act like they have no culture. And it's like, well, do something that's not like terrible, that doesn't just degrade everything, and it'll maybe look good, but nah. Let's just see what the first comment is here. Bradley, not sure that there is a necessity to make ancient Egyptians seem white or European, or by contrast, obviously, yet that distraction has its parallels, or that distinction has its parallels. However, perhaps more closely based on the Eurasian model, Western Asia, Levant, Middle East, and Mesopotamia, especially Sumerians, or Indo-Europeans, Proto-Indo-Europeans. So this guy's got it going on somewhat. If marginally, would imagine they shared a close affiliation with the Middle East. This civilization, ancient Egypt, was never built as a strictly African civilization, East Africa, or Sub-Saharan, obviously. And they were never blacks or Negroids by this token. Egypt, also led by force, yet would have shared perhaps a close assimilation with peoples of the surrounds, or examples of absorption and later admixture would have been prevalent, perhaps, or selectively, or not much, or strictly as commoners, workers, or artisans, recruits, or serfs, lay people, or through direct assimilation. Egypt also built massive trade, commerce, and thus assimilation was unavoidable. Yet you may also argue indigenous Egyptians were perhaps also themselves varied with obvious distinctions, yet more closely very much the same generally and broadly. And generally and broadly what? Caucasians. So you can see Ramses here, and he's got his red hair. Well, that's hinted up because he was gray-headed, like he's an old man here. That's probably what he looks somewhat like. And but they've looked at his hair under a microscope. Of course it's Caucasian. You can tell in there. Of course he is. But now they come to find out by that in his genetics, he's a pale leucoderm. They also found he had cocaine in his body, tobacco from the New World, all kinds of neat things. We're not going to get into that. There's no question Ramses was a pure Caucasian. As testament, there's his mummy. He may have looked quite similar to that image on the left, or some other distinction. He was also a natural redhead. He also lived to be around 90 years of age and still stood almost 6 foot tall, among the greatest of all pharaohs. However, he was still invariably much later in Egyptian history. Well, he was during the Middle Kingdom, the great period that they had through there. That's why he's Ramses the Great. In fact, through his dynasty and the ones that surround it, pumped up by it, is what caused it. And there's another depiction of what he may have looked like. Here's another one that's rarely found of what he may have looked like. And as soon as this came out, they said, well, he looks Greek. And people threw a fit about it. And they were like, wow, if you throw in a fit and you said that he looks Greek, then what does that say? Oh, you white people are... No, what does it say whenever you glance at it and say he looks Greek? Does that look like a Negro? No, no, no. Does that look like a Negro? No, no, no. Look at Nakata statues, earliest ones. Look like Sumerian handiwork. Simplistic stuff, though. Like they didn't get the badass artisans here in the first wave. Hint, hint. And it goes back, 3,800, 3,500 BC. Curved hippopotamus ivory here and stuff. So did they kill the thing to do it? They had the ears poked in with special little pegs and things and stuff. Shows him there with an erect phallus. His legs are broken off at the bottom, but they said he used to have it. Oldest mummy they find. Ginger's believed to be the earliest known mummified Egyptian body. Being late dynastic, they didn't shellac him. He happened naturally, and they buried him in the sand, and he desiccated and dried up. Right? About 3,300 BC, they call him Ginger, the body which lies in fetal position, because it's nicknamed Ginger because of red hair, and it's really blonde. Whenever you get a close look at it, it's not red, it's blonde. And kind of a strawberry, if you will, or golden. If not internationally renowned, despite the older than more famous mummies such as those, it's Ramses II, which is redheaded, or Seti, which is a redhead. In fact, Sethites are redheaded, and everybody's followers of Seth were redheads. Horus had blue eyes. There's a picture of that coming up. So he's some 5,300 years old, pre-dynastic Egypt. He's in the British Museum. I've showed you this in a few things. He's a sand mummy, but I've seen it in a few videos. And incredibly preserved, and you can tell. They talk about his fingers, toenails, and everything. He's one of the better ones. There's a couple they found right near there that just disintegrated. But, yeah. So here you find another lady, somewhere in the 3,100 year range, and early dynastic period, and of course it looks Caucasian. Here's another statue, female nude from the Thunite period, 3,100, 2,700. Well, what does she look like? No, that's another Caucasian. This long hair, too. It's naturally grown out. Yep, white people can braid their hair. Bo Derek 10. Don't act like braids are some black thing. Cultural appropriation is a terrible thing. Look at that flat ass and how there isn't any. That's a white person. I guarantee I could show this to somebody and says that statue of a black or a white person, and blacks wouldn't do it at all. And then I told you this is pre-dynastic Egypt, and they'd be like, her butt wore away. They look at something like this, and it's got a big nose but no lips, and then they get confused, and they try to claim it too. But here's your Sumerian star here, and this actually is very Sumerian in its thing. If I show a video on that, but Carl Malden, famous old actor, Google image him. Carl Malden has a bigger nose than that, but that's not the way he always looked. Not all of his things. Scorpion King. Wow, look at that. Almost looks like Elvis. Huh? Got a little beard going on. Black people don't grow. Natural black people do not grow a lot of facial hair. It takes admix to do it. So now we're begging for mulattoes, but no, none of these are black people. None of them are at this point. They talk about the Nubians now. They chased them away, and back at they have a Nubian period A and a Nubian period C. B doesn't really come into play, and they're actually genetically slightly different than each other, and different enough to where they can tell the culture changed some, probably just from their interface alone with the Egyptians. This is Sumerian in origin here too, and if you look, they already have Hathor going on here at the top of it and stuff, and the palettes, the banister. But then people look at this makeup area here that they talk about how they must have made the kohl makeup for their eyes in here, and if they're black people, why would they need makeup for their eyes? But anyhow, this is a Sumerian thing. You can find this twisted neck creature all over the Sumerian stuff. I wouldn't say all over, but there's enough artifacts there that show you that's where that came from. And if you look at the Narmer Menez exhibit in the Smithsonian, or I'm sorry, in the Louvre exhibit, famous Louvre, it'll show you it's a Sumerian priest king. Now we're looking at a scribe here. Egyptian scribe. Terrible picture because usually you can see the blue inlaid around his eyes, and the fact that his eye is a weird color. It's a blue-gray, and as you go in front of it, it'll turn blue, and then it's kind of a blue-gray blue. It's kind of weird looking. Not like a Paul Newman blue, but it's pretty good blue. There's others that do. This is a darker blue. Egyptian scribe. By the way, that guy right there, ancient scribe, is like 4th dynasty. This guy right here, 4th dynasty. This one is a little later. Non-prognostic, Caucasoid. Yep. Ancient Egyptians. Yep. We'll just slowly go through these. And here's a famous scribe everybody's seen. He's got those deep, richer blue eyes here too. And they are more of a blue eye, rich. In fact, richer blue than his eyes are. And yet he kind of looks like him a little bit. There's another actor that looks a little like him too. There's a few that they've compared people to, but none of those really compare to black people. If you look, he's got some little man boobs and stuff a little bit. Back here, the commoner people were drawn kind of regular, but of course pharaohs were still drawn in tip-top shape no matter what happened. Here's a famous picture here, and Hetepheres II, and she's a blondish redhead, and they couldn't come up with the paint color to do it. Not necessarily just, they wanted to have that golden look with yellow highlights. And so what they did was they made little lines of the red ochre on the yellow, and it looks like lines when you're up close to it. But if you get far away from it, it looks like it's red-orange with a little sheen on it. So standing 10 foot away, it does look like that. Isn't that amazing? Little effect that they tried to do there. I always thought it was. You can see this lady here on the wall, and she's got the same redhead effect, but it's a little darker. And her keeper that's here behind her, oh, there's a male that's darker. Yes, he gets out in the sun a lot. Look at this light arm over here. It's all light arm. But if you get close in on that, again, the same effect. Were to make it a little darker, so apparently they yellow ochred it over, they red ochred over that to make it a little darker. They put these lines all over it, so it kind of looks like combed in hair. They had a hard time with combed in hair. Look how pale her hand is. That's a terrible picture. Oh, that's a better one of the same statues. Oh, their nosers are broke off. They always, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Check this out. Prince Rahotep, 4th dynasty, real famous. He should be sitting next to his wife. They'll probably show a picture of her. Blue-gray eyes. Again, it's kind of gray. You get in front of them right, they're kind of blue-gray eyes. Made out of crystals. Her eyes, too. Slightly different color, blue-gray eyes. Look how pale she is. People try to claim that as a Negro somehow. 4th dynasty. Terrible picture again. This is blown up of a bad grainy shot. They should have done a better one because those eyes are blue. You can see it. It almost looks like one of those little Russian dolls. And this guy, chubby white guy. He's got his little cowling of hair just slightly on him. One of the biggest original wooden statues. And again, he has that same effect of those steely blue-gray eyes. Doesn't show well there. They have to get right in front of him, or what's weird is if you get in front of them, you shine a light into it, bam, it shows. There you can see they're darker blue in that picture, but this just, I don't know why it's got a dark background. Maybe they put a sheet behind it and then took a picture. There. You get in the right point, it shows it. Really no question. All you got to do is get a few inches off and it looks like this more. But if you shine a light into them or you get in the right line, they turn more blue. There's a few that do that. So check this guy out. Man, that's about as Caucasian as you can get. Look at, well, they're like, well, I'll give you that one. That's some kind of Hyksos guy or something after that. Really? So you'll give me that one, huh? You're giving? How about that's Osiris? Yep. There's a bunch of these. All their gods are pale. Look at Isis. Hard to really tell there what it necessarily might be. It's Caucasian. Ain't got a butt. Ain't got a butt. Sphinx is near her. Caucasian family with Horus. ISIS again. This is the usual depiction of ISIS. Me and others have had people say, oh, that's some Hyksos thing, and you go, really? Because this is out of an early tomb. They keep going there all the way through. Pale goddesses. No matter what you try to say about the Egyptians, they have pale gods and goddesses. What's up with that? Of course, the owl goes with Inanna and things, and this shows you a connection, and she is kind of that Ishtar of Egypt. Oh no. Peekaboo. White people. Yep. Lion-headed effigies. So you think they were lion-headed people? Genetic super scientists cutting the heads off of people and lions and using some glue and shoving it on there, and now they got lion people. And no, but look at these Caucasian ladies. Isn't that amazing? Look like Cher from that special back in the 70s. Y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. Here's Hathor. And man, this statue would look so much better if they just moistened or wetted it. You can tell it's still dusty. If they were to just wet that thing down, it would have that real granite effect, and it still looks like it's in great shape. It's great shape. Another, there's Horus, and that bird is black. No, he's always shown as pale on the walls too. Temple of Hathor, small lips, Caucasian lady. Almost looks oriental somehow, but they stretch her face down to make her look like a cow goddess. There's a whole thing with this cow god thing that I'll go into in another video, where they have the symbology. I'll go into the symbology of the lions, the sphinx, the things like that. And from there, it just keeps going on and on. Look at this Caucasian death mask. King Teddy, 6th Dynasty. They did some death masks, like Napoleon. Ironically, he looks kind of like Napoleon. Kind of like a Greek person. Look at it. Khafre, who they say the pyramid. Look at that's the Sphinx profile right there. There's a better look at it. There's your Sphinx profile. Oh yeah, well look, his mouth sticks out like black people, so it's not black people. It's not black people. That's made out of black granite. No, that's not black people. That's not black people. Wish these were all blown up the same size. Nice Caucasian family. They try to use this one sometimes. I just want to do something with you. It's just a mental experiment here. So you see they're made out of black stone, and that really helps their effect. Look at them big monkey ears on these people. Their small lips and their noses. The guy on the left looks like that damn golfer guy on TV. And now let's just say, let's make that same statue out of white alabaster. Now, can you picture it in your mind? Look at it, and it's just made out of white alabaster. Now look at them. Now try to picture them as black people again. See if you can. Right. Try it again. No, didn't think so. That picture's bent. They actually finally put one in and told it to stretch it. Now who's that? Look at them blue eyes, them Caucasian ears. That looks like a friend of mine growing up in school named Danny right there. Not the redhead I was talking about. Somebody different. He passed. But, oh my God, that's King Pharaoh Hor. Horus! Oh. There are early graves and boxes and things, and it plainly says on the side of it, I knit on the head of the blue-eyed Horus, the god who acts. Kind of like Bo Derek again, isn't it? A little bit. That's ISIS. They look at this and they go, oh, look, they're black. Well, look at their women. So, no, they're just tan Caucasians. I'm sorry it's so confusing for you, but she went out in the sun. They show women dark sometimes. Yes, so some of the women get dark too. See how that works. You can't play it off. And please quit acting like you're dumb to the idea that West Africans could have had anything to do with it in the first place. You smell that? I smell a lie. Doesn't smell like lotus. Oh man, who's that? Is that Cher from the 1970s again, fixing to do her song? It's ISIS. Profile. Anything Negroid about that profile? No, didn't think so. We could go into a bunch of blonde people, little bitty nose, little lips. We could go into a bunch of blonde people. Look at this old guy here. I mean, gotta get in on it, kind of look, and look at the age on that man. But that's not a black person. Oh, here we go with a famous one. Let me back up just a little. There we go. That's Imwenu. Yeah. Looks real Greek. Boy, he looks Greek as hell. And this is one of the statues they again drew naturally. He's kind of chubby face, got a little bit of a double chin going on. This is the architect of the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is the scribe that was under him, the great architect they credit with it. Imwenu. This is one person's depiction of him. I think they go a little overboard with the boink, but if you know what I mean. But there he is. Looks a little more like that. Got some man boobs on him, kind of fat legs and so on. He's also extremely tall. They figured, you know, hey, stand him up, he'd break 6 foot. Big old guy. You hear about the planet Nibiru. That's Nibiru. Caucasians. Oh, Queen Ty. Oh, Queen Ty. See, she's black. Oh, Queen Ty. No, that's made out of yew wood, and yew wood's as light as the pine fence that you get on your house, and it's just darkened over time. That's an afro. No, that's a silver veil over a pharaoh's head. You want to prove it? Oh, sure, I guess so. Okay, let's prove it. There it is. She's got a silver veil over the top of a pharaoh cowling, right there. That's why they have that thing and the double deal on her head in the first place, right there. And the sticks, they're running this thing. That's and the holes right there, that's where they stick in the little pegs that have the uraeus on them. That's the cobra thing. She probably had a cobra and a buzzard. Well, looky there. Look at that flowing hair. And man, she didn't get too much of a shellac job. They must have done her real well. So that's a presumed mummy of Queen Ty. But also they said, you know, maybe Queen Hatshepsut. But they've gone through it and they go, no. And then that's the mother of King Tut. And you look at pictures like this. This is Akhenaten, and of course that's the one dynasty where they started making freaky long horse face pictures on people, and so they say he must have been horse faced. No, look at this girl right here. They took a girl. It's not a girl. It's a guy. It's a girl, and and they morphed her in half of it. She looks just like that. By the way, it's a Caucasian girl. She lives in Spain. Here's a guy that lives in Egypt. And if you look at the size of his lips and the way his head and he looks, and I've done a video where it shows you, another guy did it, I didn't do it. They did a deal where they cut it in half and they put his face on there, then they morph it back and forth. And it's like, yeah, that's just totally believable. But yet still they say this was really stylized. This guy is more horse-faced than he probably really was. He was probably more like this. And I'm willing to concede he was that tan. He just wasn't a Negroid. He wasn't a black person. Look at this stretched out horse face. Doesn't even fit in one shot. So that's the Amarna period. Then, of course, we had Nefertiti, and everybody loses their mind over it. And, of course, she's supposed to have come from a foreign land, her name, which is the Mitanni people, you know, and because her name says, beauty has come to us. That's what Nefertiti means. And if you look, she's lost her eye. But she's still got the other one, and it's that hazel blue-green color. They got so mad, and they thought that she should be darker. I did a video where the girls on the reel just lost their mind over it, and they don't know anything about it. King Tut. Oh, well, look, he's all rosy. He's got lighter skin there, too. Which one is it, darkened over time or what? They do genetics and look, and there's two different people that didn't know each other's recreation of it. One of them gave him blue-green eyes. The other brown. Doesn't matter eye color. It's Caucasian. He's a little buck-toothed, too. That's one of his statues. What color was he? Was he a red? Was he this? Was he that? Was he... Then, of course, you could show... I remember showing somebody a long time ago a picture of this they'd redone of an Egyptian. They showed this and this. Did not show the face. And he goes, oh, that's one of the inbred MFs, and you can have that. And I go, I can have that? Like I said earlier? And he goes, yeah, that's from after later and everything. I go, cool. That's King Tut. Well, what about their daughter? What about the famous thing here? Well, yeah, that one's gotten darkened over time, and they always show these Photoshop pictures. Here's a little wax effigy of the same thing. Man, she's pale, got rosy cheeks. What's up with that? Oh, here's these girls. They're having a candle sniffing party. They're like, look, smell. Lilac. And she's got one ready for her. She's like, smell. Tangerine. Pale women, non-prognostic. Oh no. No. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. They think this is Nefertiti coming from King Tut's tomb. She looks slightly pregnant, a little bit, maybe. Beautiful little lady. Could have been his wife. She miscarried a couple of times. Here's a facial reconstruction of Mary Ottoman. Hair would have been straight, possibly braided, or she wore extensions, wigs, and hair pieces. They found all these wigs. All the wigs show Caucasian hair. Where'd they get that from? Anyhow. And the mummies, all Caucasian hair. Lots of mummies, Caucasian hair. The burial ground, redheads in one area, blondes in one area. All the brown and black hairs in another area. So apparently they had it separated. It's that Sethite thing. Kind of makes sense. So what did she look like? I don't know. She kind of looks like Julie from Pretty Woman. A little bit. There's another actress she looks like. Can't pull her name out right now, but she looks a little like her. She was in, can't name that either. But here she is, like, without any hair or anything. So that's a Caucasian head. Professional sculptor Jennifer Mann, facial reconstructor. Rossetti of Ramses, and again we go back to Ramses in that picture of what he looked like, and it can just keep going on and on and on and on, but why? Oh, here we have Tutmos III, 18th dynasty. We've talked about him just recently. Sesostris, here we go. Kapow. Yep, he's the one that whenever he whooped their ass too easy, he erected a pillar with a vagina on it to tell them that they fought like women. Remember that one? Yeah, that's him. Can't claim that as a black man. Well, no, because it's a white woman. That's Hatshepsut right there. 18th dynasty, female pharaoh. Yeah, so I think that's just going to about do it. But why don't we just throw a good one in here for measure? Horemheb here. And look at this. Senusret the First in the 12th dynasty. Look. Get in on that. Yeah, I don't think we're showing continuity here all the way through. Pale women, dancers, mourners, professional mourners. Mourners are lighter. Yeah, they stay in the temple and they do all these things and they do rituals and then they're afraid to mourn. And here they are mourning again, and they're a little paler. And also they're supposed to signify they're scared for the dead, because here they are whenever they're not mourning. What? Oh, there's a Martian. No, there's different symbology for colors. Look how pale Isis is. That's going to about do it, guys. But I guess to finish it off here, Caucasians. Caucasians where? Well, Caucasians in Egypt. Blue eyes. Sumer, blue eyes. Peruvian gods. Blue eyes with beards on them. They don't grow natural beards and don't have blue eyes. India, Buddha himself, blue eyes. China, blue-eyed dead statues from back in. You've seen the mummies that I showed you from the Tarim Basin up there, and how they have blue-eyed discs over some of them, and then they've genetically checked them out. Amenhotep, red hair, brown hair, blonde, auburn. Here's Hatshepsut herself. She's the one that looks like she's smiling.